I think it's time to talk about Final Fantasy VII
Yes.
and why it's my most anticipated game of the year. So where to start? So you haven't watched like any Let's Plays of this or anything? Like you know nothing about this demo besides the fact that
I've
it exists?
I have watched people play the. Well, I haven't watched anybody play it. I've only seen gameplay in at the conferences and the
Okay, with the
the
trailers and
trailers and
stuff.
stuff. Yep.
Okay,
I haven't
so
watched anybody play it.
all right. So structurally, so this demo is just the first mission of the game, where you ride into town on the train and you blow up a Mako reactor because Cloud joins a band of terrorists. And so the demo is just like it's just that it's up to the first like true boss of the game. It can take you anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour and a half, basically depending on how much you want to run around and how much you want to experiment. And I'm inflating that time a little bit. I think I got through it in a little bit less than an hour, but I also wasn't like lollygagging.
Right.
I wasn't really trying to grind or anything.
Sure.
But yeah, so you get through that first mission. So it starts off like just flat out amazing, because they stayed pretty true to the opening of the original game,
Right.
because they just basically lifted the first chunk of the game out of the game, and this is the demo, so it opens as if it's the original, as if it's the game, with that really iconic, music swelling up, and then you see Aerith's face, and she walks out into the street, and it's just it looks gorgeous and like, unreal how incredible this flipping game looks.
Yeah.
And they've tweaked a couple things that in there to sort of suggest like the original game, Aerith gets up and walks out of the alleyway for like no apparent reason. In this game, still looks like she's like running away from something. They tweak some stuff to have like Cloud come off the train at a slightly different time, so like there's some minor differences, but they've stayed like very faithful to the spirit of it. The big thing that I guess we should just dive right into is the combat and how different it is from the original game. The original game,
Right.
obviously, being a menu-based JRPG, somewhat turn-based, but I push back against the notion that Final Fantasy active time battle system was actually turn-based in the first place. But anyway, this game is it's an action game, basically an action game with a twist. So I think it's kind of somewhere in between Final Fantasy 15, which you've played,
Yes.
and with a little
Dirge
sprinkle.
Cerberus. Is that
Not
what you're
Dirge
about to say?
No.
Okay, thank God.
No. I don't know. We'll have to see how it feels when you get Vincent in your team. No, I was going to say it's like Final Fantasy 15 mixed with Final Fantasy 12. And I say that because 15 is just straight up like sort of Kingdom Hearts style. Everything happens in the field.
Real time.
It's all real time. When you want to go into your menu, I guess you can pause that game while in battle, right? But when you want to go into your menu to like use spells and potions, like the game keeps going.
Yeah.
Whereas in Final Fantasy 12, what happens is you set up your team so basically like they're just going to do everything on their own, and then when you want to have them do something different, so like if you tell your characters go attack, they're just going to attack, and then if you want someone to use a spell, you'll hit the button to open up their spell menu and the game pauses, and then you select the spell, then they load the spell and do the spell. So this game's kind of like a combo of those two because you control, whereas in Final Fantasy 12 you don't actively control the attack actions. In the 7 remake, you do control Cloud's attacks. You press the square button to do the basic attack. You hold it in to do like a small combo. You tell him what to do. The holding thing where you hold the square button feels similar to 15, where you hold the circle button to have Noctis do his moves.
Right.
So they're similar in that way too. But then when you want Cloud to do a spell or use an item, then it opens up a menu and you pick the spell, you pick the target, and the same thing goes with when you want to do like his limit break. You'll open up your menu, you'll choose limit break. And it actually looks like, I don't think it actually 100% pauses the menu. It pauses the game, like it just goes into a super slow mode.
Yeah, they said that when they first announced the game and the combat. They said it's like, it doesn't pause it, it's just a very slow-mo.
Right, like I let it run for like a minute one time,
yeah.
and like nothing happened to me. Like nobody was able to hurt me in that time because that's how slow it is. But I guess like hypothetically,
we need to do this. We need to do this for science.
Something could happen. Yeah,
we need to do this for science.
But like I literally mean, like I was playing it, and like my wife comes in the room and asks me a question, and I paused, like, and I just opened up the battle menu, and I'm talking to her for a minute, and Cloud's like mid swing of his sword, and nobody was like hurting him at the time, I think it's probably more of like a sort of style choice more than as like a practical thing, because it looks cool when that happens, because everything goes real slow and it gets blue. And so yeah, that's kind of how they've attempted to give it some kind of like turn-based, menu-based vibe, even though it is basically an action game, because what they've also done is like, in like Final Fantasy 15, you can just spam your attacks and never touch anything else in the game, and you'll be able to get through the game. This one, at least from this mission, feels like they've really, I know it's up for debate, but come on, you get the idea. You could just,
it's not Kingdom Hearts, Alex. Come on.
You could just force your way through it. But I feel like this game really wants you to interact with those other things, because basically, so you do your square attack is like a basic attack, and you can do like a basic combo, but your like actual strong moves that are gonna like really deal damage, and like your finishing moves are all tied to Cloud's ATB bar. So they have one in the game, but it's kind of like, I don't really know if there's like another reference point to describe it like, but basically it's like a little bar that fills up, and when it gets full you can use like a stronger attack, or you actually
does it fill up over time or over like the amount of basic attacks you land?
Both. So it will fill up over time slowly, but it fills up more quickly if you're doing stuff.
So it's a mix of Final Fantasy 13's ATB bar, and then I can't think of another game to mix it with. I'm not gonna lie.
I guess kind of like that, because like it's kind of an interesting situation where like you can, like this happened in like the last boss in the boss battle, you can like hide and keep your distance, and it'll fill up slowly, but you're like rewarded for going in and doing some damage, because then it fills up. It's almost like I kind of felt like the real way to play the game is, the attacks are almost not even for damage. They're more for you
charging.
Charge your ATB so that you can do spells, and so that you can do, like Cloud's Braver attack is actually like tied to this ATB bar.
Right.
So that's kind of like where they mesh the two things together, and they really push you towards having to do that. Like you find like an enemy really early on. He's like that. It's like the car that you have to fight, which looks sort of really strange in this thing, and you have to use like fire magic on it in order to like hurt it, or stagger it is what they say. So like basically like knock it down, then you can actually do more damage. So basically you have to be able to build up your ATB bar so that you can use fire, so that you can then actually deal damage with your attacks, and the same thing happens when you get to the actual like boss of the mission, where you have to use lightning magic, or is it thunder? I forget which one they call it, but we'll say thunder magic, to stagger it, and then you'll be able to do your actual strong moves. So they really do require you to use just not just spam attack. You have to use attack, and then you have to use the menu based stuff.
You have to use your brain.
Basically, yeah, there is a little bit of sort of strategic action going on. They do also introduce Barrett in the demo, so you get to switch over to him. You can switch party members in battle.
Yep.
In just one mission, I feel like Barrett doesn't really get a lot that he can do because he's really designed for like fighting, you know, distance enemies. There's a couple like turrets they put up in places that he shoots at, but he doesn't like really feel good to use in the same way that Cloud feels good. Like they really made Cloud's sword feel heavy and dangerous when he's swinging that thing around, you know. So I think they probably doesn't want you to just be Cloud all the time, and then you can give commands to the other party members, so you can just tell Barrett, hey, shoot that thing up there. I'm going to be over here with my sword, you know, come get it when you're done, basically. But
could also just be that it's the beginning of the game and you don't have enough abilities and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, and he gets other weapons too, you know, so it might be, you know, interesting to
that's always something to look forward to, you know.
And you know, I'm really interested to see how Tifa's stuff feels in battle, because
you and everyone else
from the trailer she looks like, you know, really quick, and like her moves sort of like jolt her around the field the way she's like punching things, and now that I have a feel for how like Cloud feels and how he moves around that space, I sort of have an impression of what that might feel like to be Tifa instead. So that is very exciting.
Yes.
And what else? Those are like the sort of major impressions. You know, they've also like they went all in on like the character designs and like the voices, and they really expanded like the dialogue that you get with Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge in that first section.
Right.
So like all three of those characters are super cool. And there's some other stuff. I don't necessarily know if this counts as a spoiler or not, because so I won't say it. I'm just going to assume it does. They've like tweaked something about the ending of the mission that's not in the original game that has some interesting story implications for later, which is already causing some debate amongst people. Some people think that this particular change, you know, changes the context you're supposed to understand Avalanche, the terrorist group that Cloud joins, that Barrett runs, while my first take was that they were trying to do something interesting and different with Shinra, the bad guys. So we'll see how that pans out, but basically like that kind of stuff made me interested to see what changes they made, because they've been very open about the fact that there's going to be changes, you know.
Yeah.
So that game is out in, I think, actually like exactly a month from now. It comes out on April 10th. So
I think it's the 10th, yeah.
We have a month until it comes out.
Yes.
I'm really excited. There was like a moment where I was like loading it up and wondering, like, you know, every time we talk about it here, we talk about the fact that they're just getting the hype like impossibly high, and every single thing they put out seems cooler and cooler. Playing this so far was like, it made me hopeful that maybe there's really something interesting here. Maybe they really stuck the landing on it, you know.
I think we all had a feeling that this was going to happen. I mean, to me, this has been really exciting, like seeing this unfold, because you know how much I enjoyed 15. You know, it was the first Final Fantasy that was full action, and you know that even growing up, I never was really all about the turn-based strategy games. You know, it was difficult for me to stay focused on. So for me to be able to see this, I mean, this is probably the only turn-based strategy game that I've ever watched you play in its entirety. So that's some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I mean, I'm more than likely gonna pick up a console, honestly, to get it once it comes out.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Over to the dark side.
And we'll see what happens. I never said I was switching. I just said I was going to get it for this. I will do that. I'm considering it.
Right. I think it'll be worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. If you like it.
Once I find out what's going on with how many discs, and once I know the whole game is released, that is when I will do that.
Well, we're not going to know that for a little while, I don't think, unfortunately.
Exactly. So I got
Although
some time.
this game by itself is 2 discs. I'm pretty sure they had like like the back of the box, like leaked like a week ago or two. So this might have been debunked. I didn't see anybody debunking it, but apparently it's like it's already a 2-disc game. As it
I
is
don't
now.
understand.
Uncompressed cutscenes, probably is what I'm thinking.
Probably
Went all in on the cinematics and stuff. I mean, like I said, it looks like outrageously good. Just like on a graphics level, just.
No, I mean that's fine. I mean, by the time this whole game's out, I think the PS5 full collection for it is going to be out. So maybe I'll just end up doing that.
Right. My So we'll probably hear something about it at E3. What the full thing is going to be.
Yes.
I would like to point everybody to a short thread that Tim Rogers did last week. So Tim Rogers, guy who over the last couple of years he did like an 11-part video series where he like went through the Japanese version of Final Fantasy VII and like live translated sections of it and talked about like the differences between the Japanese script and the English script that we originally got, which was infamously terrible. And
right.
And he also at one point figured out how much, like what percentage of the game's dialogue took place in Midgar, since this first section is supposed to be just Midgar. So what you'll see a lot of people saying is like, oh, Midgar is like 1/10 of the game. And that's kind of not really true. It's at least 25% of the original game, based on Tim Rogers' things and other things I've seen people sort of corroborate this. So his theory was that it'll probably be 3 games in the series. This first game is all of Midgar. The second game would be the rest of Disc 1. And then the third game would be all of Disc 2 and all of Disc 3, because there's almost nothing on the original Disc 3. That could be interesting. I'd be okay with 3. 4, I think, is pushing it. 2 would be the best.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, really? So you'd be okay with 3? I was like, I'm kind of pissed that there's more than 1 to begin with, but
yeah. I mean, we're just gonna have to see, what the pacing feels like and how they've adapted it. Because, like I said, there's hints even in this little thing. The way that they've really like added stuff to the character of even Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, who are pretty minor characters in the original version. They really make you like those guys immediately in this one. So they're expanding even basic stuff like that.
So here's my question to you. Do you think it's going to make that this is going to have so many changes that it's going to constitute them making 3 games, even though the original game was on 3 discs, and obviously the size and that's different, but you'd really be okay with 3 discs, all more than likely at full price?
Well, like 3 games, I'd be okay with it. I would prefer, since we know so here's my thing. It's like we know that it's not 1 game. We've known that for a while, so I've made my peace.
I still already don't like that.
I would so my sort of thing is that like I have 2 feelings about that. Number one, like I don't get any value anymore out of being upset that it's more than 1 game, because it's done. They've decided it's gonna be more than 1 game. So if they really draw it, I just want to say if they really draw it out, then I'll get upset again. Right now I want to just try to enjoy this game. But the other thing is that I'm excited about, like, this is a story I know very well. I've played all of the compilation games that were released in English anyway. So the idea that they could tell me something new, tell a new version of this story, introduce things that I haven't experienced before, give me a new reason to visit this story. That is like the thing that actually excites me the most about it,
Okay.
So
here's my question that I was going to get around to at the end of that.
Right.
To you, because to me this is what it seems like, that they're going to make this Final Fantasy VII situation into a Final Fantasy 13.
Well, no, they flat out said that they're doing it as if it's like a series, like how Final Fantasy 13 was.
I don't like that. I hate Final Fantasy 13. I've been over this with you many and many a times. I hate that game, and if they plan on keep doing this with Final Fantasy, I won't play anymore.
Well,
I really
so
won't.
so just to make sure I want to understand like what you like, what did you mean by that then? Because I took that to mean that you were saying like how they did a trilogy of Final Fantasy 13 games. Like, is that what
First
you
of
meant?
all, yes. I mean, besides the fact that the game is garbage, the fact that they decided to drag that game on for 3 games, just
Mm-hmm.
trying to make money because one country enjoyed it for some odd reason. It's a terrible game. It's the worst Final Fantasy I've ever played. Like I played, I think there's 3 discs in that game, and I played through 2 and half of the third one, and I got to it and I said, "There's no point that I just did all of this. There's no reason." You play for hours and hours, and you feel like you accomplished nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't think you should drag it out, because they're dragging this out. Who's going to say that all of that empty space is going to be entertaining? That's the issue with Final Fantasy 13. They dragged it out for so long, and the crap in the middle just was not good at all. The beginning, great. It just takes a real quick dive. So that's my fear about this.
Right.
But I could be wrong. I don't know.
There's no way to know. Yeah, I sort of
Until
more
it's
took
done.
it to mean that they had used the 13 trilogy as like a reference point to say that rather than like their whole pitch is like rather than looking at this as a remake of a PS1 game, to look at it as taking the PS1 game as a foundation for like a new series based on the same story, you know.
Right. But my whole fear is that it's going to get dragged on for too long,
It could.
and there's not enough substance in the middle.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
That's just my fear.
Yeah, I don't think that they'll do like I personally think that they would not do more than 3. Like that's sort of what I'm thinking, unless they have massively, unless you just get to play Crisis Core in the middle of this game, you know, like, and they remade that from the ground up. I don't think they could justify going past 3. We'll see what happens beyond that, you know. But I'm trying to stay optimistic about.
Everything looks great. That's the only fear that I have with the game. That's it. Is that they're gonna just drag it out, and because like I said, Final Fantasy 13, the first one, it starts out great. It keeps you invested for like the first disc, and then about halfway through the second disc, it's just like, why am I still playing this game?
Mm-hmm.
At least to me. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that like it, but I just don't.
Well, that's kind of interesting because like one of the main things that people say about this game is not like I haven't heard too many people say about which we're taking just this one game in particular here, the one that takes place in Midgar. Most of what I hear are people saying things like it's going to be too short, you know, like they can't possibly drag it out enough, you know. So I actually would be really interesting to find out that they have taken this game to such an extent where they have actually stretched it out to 70 hours or something absurd.
Well, I think that's the whole
long.
point. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that it's either too long and just empty. I'm just saying that the pacing needs to be correct. If if Midgar is extremely short and it's basically what you got in the first disc, there is no reason that they should be selling it in 3, because that's it's a small portion of the game. They're basically ripping you off at that point. If you do it's too long, okay, yeah, you get more game out of it, but is it still going to be entertaining? Right. So there's both sides of the extreme. It's just a matter of, are they going to do it right or not?
Right. Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's what we'll find out in a month.
Yeah. Well, we'll only find out the first part in a month. Find the rest out.
Well, we'll find out if they stick the landing on Midgar.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think. If they stick the landing on making Midgar feel like it needed to be a whole game, then I think we're probably in a good spot for the rest of them, because they've